So last month, Rocket received a new mechanic. The velocity you get from hitting yourself with primary, secondary, and Q retains until Rocket touches the ground. And while Rocket loses most of his air control, his rocket jumps now work as a viable and accessible mobility option. So to perform a basic jump with your primary, point your crosshair towards the ground and your rocket, then jump and shoot. With your primary and secondary, you'll get knocked back in the opposite direction of where the splash damage came from, so you want to face 180 of where you want to go. Also, your crosshair dictates the vertical and horizontal distance of the jump. Aiming straight down will send you up with little distance covered, and aiming a bit ahead will do the opposite. A single basic rocket jump can get you around 40 to 50 studs of distance, which is useful for a quick reposition or to get on high ground. And also, Rocket's Q liftoff was indirectly buffed by receiving a significant distance increase from 60 studs to 80 studs because of the velocity changes. We'll get back to talking about this ability in a moment. You also notice I didn't talk about Rocket's secondary. That's because the self knockback's really bad. You can charge it to increase the distance to 70 studs, though this will consume 13 HP and waste a 7-second cooldown. It's not worth it in most cases. Okay, so let's move on to the advanced rocket jump mechanic, Pogoing. While you rocket jump, if you time a primary right as you're about to touch the ground, you can keep your velocity and extend your jump's distance. There's two ways of starting a pogo. The first is by using a primary jump, and then chaining it with itself. The best way to do this is to aim the first one straight down for verticality, then aiming the rest to your left or right. The second is using it out of a queue. The timing is specific, but it's very consistent to perform once you get the hang of it. But if you time it too early, the rocket won't hit you, and if you time it too late, you'll touch the ground and bounce in another direction. Aiming to the left and right will shift rocket to the right and left direction respectively, and it's the best for using making the most distance. But if you perform it facing forward, it will cut your velocity a bit, so it's useful if you don't want to go too far. You can also do it facing backwards if you want to kite, but I found it too difficult to use when traveling forward since you can't see what's in front of you. Pogos allow Rocket to travel long distances quickly, at the expense of using more HP and being harder to execute. You can use it to escape or gap close to join a fight across the map. I just wouldn't advise running in head first with a Pogo, since Rocket's moveset isn't built to start fights, it's just raw damage after all. There's a few other information pieces I didn't get to cover, so we'll talk about it now. When you take self damage from rocket jumping, it'll reset the 6-second shield regen timer, so you want to avoid overspending your HP on rocket jumps in a short period, or try to look for a good window to get your shield back. Rocket jumping has a max velocity of 18. A primary into Q can get you to that limit, though it isn't necessary unless you need to go very fast. It also bypasses the grounded status effect, and you can buffer it against stuns, katana pulls, or even escape subs ult. If your primary is too small to hit yourself, you can charge a secondary to get out of Noxious Void. Although your left and right movement in the air is limited, you can still move forward and backward to extend your rocket jump distance. Just keep in mind moving backwards will make you lose velocity. Using your E or finisher will destroy the velocity you built, so you can correct yourself if you overshoot. You can also take a few moments to reload in the air while rocket jumping. Once during your Q, and a little more if you go out of a pogo. The ground detection for rocket jumping is really janky. If you barely graze any surface, you lose all your speed, so position liberally around any wall, ceiling, or pole. And finally, if you fly through a pass-through surface that blocks projectiles, such as this sign in Roblox City, or the trees in Bogio Skate Park, you'll lose all your velocity. This is a bug, but it's also worth keeping in mind. For practicing rocket jumps, I advise trying intermissions or private servers to nail the timing down, or experiment with rollouts. When you get comfortable, try playing around with it in real games. There's no strict playstyle with the rocket jumps, it really just comes down to how much you value it as an aggressive or defensive option, so go with whatever works. And that's about it, so thanks for watching.